in today's modern era, we are adapting to technologies that are built for our advantages, and that includes in the line of job market by automation. So, what is an automation? An automation is the application of technology, programs, robotics, or processes that outcomes with minimal human input. The main goal of automation is to improve efficiency, accuracy, and speed in business procedures. Although this is where the problem starts because manufacturing corporations are starting to use automations for their major workforce. And by this, it can lead to many provocative questions, such as should we tax companies that replace human workers with automation? Or, in fact, should we heavily tax these corporations? Because I believe and I agree that we should heavily tax manufacturing corporations who are using automations. And I have my points to support it. And then, first of all, my point is that why should we heavily tax the manufacturing corporations that uses automations? Because, as I said before, that the majority of the automations that they use are for efficiency, for less operational cost, and of course for less human errors. And this can lead to humans losing their jobs. Despite the conveniences of using automations for the major workforce, the danger of using automations may threaten the whole job market for humans. As we all know that finding available jobs in these days are really hard, especially in this digital era, where especially in manufacturing sectors, people are starting to find struggling to find real jobs because it is only fair that government responsible government apply heavy taxes for these companies because they no longer provide jobs for us humans. Second point is that by improving heavy taxes for these corporations, it can reduce and it can prevent the greed from these corporations. It can also prevent the inequality from these corporations. So why? It can so why? Because if the government still put these corporations in normal taxes, it can increase the inequality between the rich and the poor. Because as we all know that most corporations who uses automations are none other than rich corporations who has its big names and popularity. And as for your information, the capital of automation products are really expensive. So this is the reason why many popular companies, many big companies actually can afford to buy the capital for the automation products. And not only that, they can actually monopoly the whole market. So by monopolying the whole market, they can get rid of smaller manufacturing corporations who actually still using human as their major workforce. So this is really unfair if the government didn't put a heavy tax for these manufacturing corporations with automations. So of course, this is the reason this is the second reason why that government should put a heavier tax for these corporations who are using automations. And then my third point is that by imposing heavier taxes for these corporations, the money collected from automation can actually help people in social programs such as training or education or reskilling. And of course, by these social programs funded by automation taxes, people or future workers, I say, they can find their new skill and they can find their new jobs. So, of course, without imposing the heavier taxes for these corporations, society bears to suffer and companies are getting richer and richer by the day. So, of course, we should put heavier tax for companies who are using automations. And then for my last point is that with the application of heavier tax automations, corporations can actually it can lead them to think twice. It can lead them to think harder their about their decisions of whether they want to fully use the automations or if they want to actually include humans. Because of course, although the imposition of high taxes cannot stop the possibility that they'll completely stop using automations. However, with this policy, they will try to employ humans along with working with automations. So In conclusion, I heavily agree that we should impose higher taxes for manufacturing corporations with automations because it can be beneficial for the society, it can be beneficial for us, and it is really necessary. So companies will not monopoly the whole market. So these companies, these big companies, they can actually give some space for the smaller companies to compete in the economic. So they can have like a stable economic condition. That's all I have to say. So this is the reason why I heavily agree that putting higher taxes for manufacturing companies who are using automations is really necessary. So that's all I have to say. Thank you so much for paying attention for my speech. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.